In 1776, a ragtag militia of starving farmers managed to defeat a global empire. Today, the individual at the top of the government they created commands a nuclear arsenal capable of ending human civilization in a single afternoon. Looking at the original text of Article 2 of the Constitution, you won't find that kind of authority. Terrified of creating another king, the founders left the executive branch vague, tasked with enforcing laws. That meant George Washington had to invent the job's mechanics himself. He established the structure from scratch, creating the cabinet system, setting the two-term limit, and designing a peaceful transfer of power. This global superpower was never a pre-planned design. It's the result of a chaotic 230-year relay race where 45 men grabbed the baton and continually stretched the boundaries of the office far beyond its original limits. Take Thomas Jefferson. He held strict views on limiting federal power until France offered him a deal. For just $15 million, 4 cents an acre, he bypassed his own constitutional hesitation and bought 828,000 square miles, doubling the size of the nation overnight. A few decades later, Andrew Jackson used blunt force and populism to expand his reach. He routinely defied institutional norms, unilaterally destroying the national bank and imposing his own will over the other branches of government. James K. Polk treated the presidency as a tool for conquest. He came in with a specific to-do list and in a single term pushed the nation's borders to the Pacific by acquiring California and the Oregon Territory. Territorial conquest forced the presidency to evolve. The office moved away from simple domestic oversight toward a new role, governing a continent through force. The ultimate test of this power came when the country began to fracture. As southern states openly threatened secession, James Buchanan watched them leave and decided the federal government simply couldn't stop it. Abraham Lincoln took the exact opposite approach. To hold the Union together, he seized war powers no executive had ever touched. Over 600,000 Americans died in the ensuing Civil War, but Lincoln's forceful command kept the country intact and abolished slavery. 70 years later, Franklin Delano Roosevelt used the Great Depression and World War II to centralize authority even further. He built a massive administrative state, launching labor protections, banking reforms, and massive infrastructure projects through the New Deal. A clear pattern emerged. When existential panic sets in, the public hands over extraordinary powers to the executive branch to solve the problem. The attack on Pearl Harbor forced the United States out of isolation and onto the global military stage. When Harry Truman inherited the Oval Office, he was briefed on the war's most guarded secret. He made the unilateral decision to drop atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, cementing America's status as a superpower. Yet, supreme global power came with extreme personal vulnerability. John F. Kennedy successfully navigated the Cuban Missile Crisis to avoid nuclear war, but his assassination in Dealey Plaza proved how fragile the physical head of state remained. Lyndon B. Johnson took over and used the momentum of the office to force domestic transformations, signing the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, Medicare, and Medicaid. But Johnson applied that same aggressive executive force overseas, escalating the Vietnam War. It fractured American society, resulting in 58,000 Americans dead and over 300,000 wounded. The paranoia born from managing this much unchecked authority eventually reached a breaking point. Richard Nixon's attempts to cover up the Watergate hotel break-in forced him to resign to avoid federal charges. The office grew so globally demanding that it began to physically and politically crush the flawed men trying to manage it. The 1990s brought economic acceleration and budget surpluses, but that stability shattered on the morning of September 11, 2001. George W. Bush responded by launching trillion-dollar campaigns in Afghanistan and Iraq, asserting executive military authority for a new millennium. Barack Obama stepped into the Oval Office during a global financial meltdown, passing stimulus packages to save the economy while executing an overhaul of the national healthcare system. Then Donald Trump entered the White House with zero political or military experience. His tenure tested the absolute stress limits of the office's constitutional norms and the resilience of its institutions. Through all of this, despite shifting ideologies, scandals, and deeply flawed occupants, the underlying authority of the American executive branch never shrinks, it only compounds. The institution remains a study in contradiction, a chaotic office that nonetheless moves the world with a single signature.